Hey, Bitcoin going up while I'm doing this. Wait for me to get big, then you tune in. They say Juice, are you sure? Motherfucker, yeah, I'm sure. Make money in my sleep, snoozing. Shout out Jay-Z, we done laid the blueprint. I move with a purpose, I'm gonna be alright. I promise I'm learning till the day I die. Sleep, I'm just trying to keep, reap. My blessings is in reach. I start from the bottom, I'm hitting the top. I don't know why they hating on me. I move like a king, cease. The bullshit they feed, sheesh. I'm removing them shackles, I'm breaking them chains. It's time to be free. Buying liabilities, we gotta change the way we think. Think it's cool to walk up in the store and spend 10 on a mink. I just spent a couple thousand up on Apple, let that sink. What they making in a year, we gon' make it in a week. Buying liabilities, we gotta change the way we think. Think it's cool to walk up in the store and spend 10 on a mink. I just spent a couple thousand up on Apple, let that sink. What they making in a year, we gon' make it in a week. Look, buying liabilities, we gotta change the way we think. Think it's cool to walk up in the store and spend 10 on a mink. I just spent a couple thousand up on Apple, let that sink. What they making in a year, we gon' make it in a week. Yes, sir! We are back with another episode. Let's get it. I know it's been a minute, but I've been in the lab. I've been really doing my research, doing my due diligence, trying to learn more every day, baby. But let's get into it. I'm excited. It might be a long episode because I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. But before we begin, you already know, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like this episode. Remember, this channel is specifically to motivate, to inspire, to educate. If you need any of that, you know where to come. But without further ado, let's begin. I want to talk about what's been going on in the markets. As we already know, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Bitcoin made a new all-time high. Ethereum is doing this thing at 4K, about 4,100 last time I checked. Look, if you go back and rewatch some of the past episodes where I was talking about crypto when it was in the bear market phase, when it was down, when crypto, nobody was really messing with it, that's the time to buy. And then remember, the B word came out. If you haven't watched that, you for sure should go watch that with Kathy Wood, Jack Dorsey, and Elon Musk, the B word. I'm telling y'all, like, I think that was the real catalyst for the bull market phase that we in now, because it educated a lot of institutional investors to start pouring their money into crypto, aka Bitcoin, aka Ethereum. And when you see that happen, then the prices is going to continue to rise. But crypto is so volatile. Like, you see how when it goes up, it goes up. But when it go down, oh, best believe it's going to plummet. It's going to plummet. And again, if you believe in an asset, if you really value it, then that's the time to put money into it, is when it's down. So when it's up like this, you don't have to worry about, oh, you missed your opportunity to buy it. Now you just enjoying the run. You sit back, you let it print money for you, and you just enjoy the run, because I'm enjoying it. Bitcoin, Ethereum, oh, I'm loving it. And again, when it plummet, best believe I'm going to have the same energy, because I'm going to be putting more money into that thing. But crypto, you know where it's at. If you haven't invested in crypto, please wake up. But I want to talk about the stock market and why I believe the stock market is going to continue to go up for the rest of the year. And I want to first say, like, okay, look, we all know, or we all might not know, but that's why I'm going over it. But investors are constantly looking for somewhere to put their money into it where they can get a return back. Now, you got your different type of investors. You got short-term investors, long-term investors, traders, or whatever. But you always have your investors that's looking for a place to put their money, knowing that this is a safe investment. I'm going to get this return back, knowing like, okay, I'm good. So you have different industries which you can hit. You got real estate industries. You got investors that go to real estate. You got the bond industry, where it's guaranteed a yield on a return. So like right now, I think the 10-year treasury was like at 1.6 or something, around there, 1.5, 1.6. And that's over 10 years. So that's a 1.6% return over 10 years. If you're not having millions of dollars to pour into bonds to get that 1.6 return, I mean, it's not really attractive in my opinion. Then you got the equity market, aka the stock market, where it's like, okay, if I put my money here in certain equities, I know what's going to happen. Now, The reason why I said all that is because in terms of the equity market, the stock market, a lot of people, investors for the past months, September and October, as we know, is historically one of the worst months in the stock market, but you still got people saying like, I don't know whether I should put my money into the stock market because of certain different issues. We got inflation that they was talking about. You got the supply shortages like the chips, pretty much supply shortages of everything, especially a lot of commodities like oats. I know with Starbucks, they were saying that it's a shortage of the coffee beans, and they had to raise prices in terms of that. So it's literally supply shortages everywhere, and that's just because where we at in the economy. We came out of the pandemic, demand is higher than supply, so it's going to take a minute for that to balance out. But as of right now, we are in a great season. Yes, it's basketball season. Yes, football season, baseball playoff season, but it's really earnings season. And this is where a lot of companies make their bread and they let us know if they making their bread. But I think that the stock market is going to continue to go up over the year because of what is happening right now. For this past week, it was a huge earnings season. So last week we had the banks, Wells Fargo, all those major banks, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they all presented their earnings. Yeah, it was cool or whatever. I'm not really into the financial sector, but that's really for, people who are looking to get like an idea of what the banks are seeing. Like, okay, they see growth here. They see kind of slow growth here. That's really what they're kind of looking for. But this week and the next coming weeks, we got a lot of the tech companies, and the tech companies are where they make their bread from earnings season. Tech companies, that's all a lot of investors look into is earnings season, especially when it comes to a lot of these tech companies. Now, for a lot of the companies that reported already, we had a good amount of companies from the consumer staples sections like Johnson & Johnson, which I'm going to go over a little, Procter & Gamble. You had a few of those companies in the consumer staples industry that reported strong earnings as well. And then so far in the tech industry, we had Tesla and Taiwan Semiconductor, which I'll be going over. So I'll be going over those three with you today just to explain why I think it's going to be a good bull run for the rest of the year. Now, when I say the stock market, I think it's going to continue to rise. I'm not saying that every single day the stock market is going to go up. I'm not saying that. I'm saying over the long term, or over the short term, technically, for these next few months, November and December, I think that it's going to be an uptrend in terms of the stock market. So let's start with consumer staple. We're going to get this out the way with Johnson & Johnson. Now, I'm going to just read you a little data that I've been doing my research on in terms of the earnings. I really look at the data to see what's going on with these companies. How much revenue are they generating? How are they growing? Are they growing year over year? And then I kind of evaluated with the guidance that they put out. And guidance is basically just kind of like forecast of what's going to happen over the next quarter based off of like current trends, like demand, pandemic, stuff like that, current data that they see. And they're basically just giving you a forecast of what they plan to happen. It's not always going to happen that specific way, and they kind of warn you on that. But a lot of investors do look in terms of guidance right now. This is huge. So let me just give you Johnson & Johnson's data. So their earnings per share came out to $2.60, which beat the estimate of $2.35 per share. Their revenue kind of fell just a little bit short in terms of expectations. It was 23.3 billion, and then the expectations was 23.7 billion. So they just kind of slightly missed the revenue, but in terms of earnings per share, they hit that. And Johnson & Johnson, on their transcripts, they were saying like they got a lot of their results and a lot of their revenue from a lot of the pharmaceutical devices, the health devices, a lot of the pharmaceutical medicines like Tylenol, Benadryl, Motrin, other things like that. And then they have like this cancer prevention drug that they put out. And they're kind of seeing strong revenue from that. And of course, the vaccine. And they said in terms of guidance that they expect the vaccine revenue to increase over the next few months significantly. So in terms of the consumer staples sector, a lot of people were kind of iffy, like, okay, how is the supply chain affecting these companies' profit margins? Because we know inflation is a huge issue. So if inflation starts to rise, the input costs are getting higher for these companies. Like that's kind of cutting into their profits, especially if they're not passing it back down to us, the consumers. And if they are passing it back down to us, the consumers, are we willing to pay for those prices? So it's kind of a thing where you got to balance out supply and demand. And a lot of investors are worrying like, okay, these input costs are obviously rising on a lot of these commodities, a lot of these raw materials that are used to make a lot of the stuff that we use. So a lot of these companies are paying higher prices due to inflation. But how is that going to affect their profit margins? So that was one of the worries that was going into the next few months. Of like, okay, I don't know if I could get a good percent of return on my money if I put it into equities because of inflation. So in terms of Johnson & Johnson, they showed like, look, even though we fell short on revenue, our earnings per share was there. We saw strong revenues in our pharmaceutical medicine devices and whatnot. And they basically raised their guidance for the next quarter, saying like, yeah, we expect this to happen, especially with the vaccine and a lot of our other products. We see a lot of growth ahead. So that was huge. That was huge in terms of the consumer staple sector. Johnson & Johnson is a pretty strong, solid company. A lot of people use that for a dividend play. They pay a really good dividend. So a lot of people do watch Johnson & Johnson. It is one of the top 10 holdings in the S&P 500. So that was huge. That was huge just to start off with in terms of the consumer staple sector. Now, other companies that are not as strong as Johnson & Johnson, like Procter & Gamble and another few companies that reported, they kind of lowered their guidance and expectations over the next coming months because they think they're going to be hardly affected by the supply chain shortages and inflation costs and whatnot. So again, it all depends. That's why you got to like look at the top companies and do your research to see in times like this, what companies can still bring in some big revenue, what companies are not really going to be affected by stuff like this. So we got that out the way with the Johnson & Johnson and consumer staples. But my favorite industry, shout out to the NASDAQ, baby, but the tech industry. And forgot to mention that the S&P 500 just closed at an all-time high today. So the market is going up. The NASDAQ is creeping near its all-time high, but the S&P 500 did hit another all-time high today. So shout out to the S&P 500. You carrying my portfolio so well. Shout out VOO, baby. XLY, you doing your thing. Tesla's propping that thing up. So again, I'll be getting off topic a little, but starting in the tech industry, for the second company, we got Taiwan Semiconductors. Now, if you haven't done your research on Taiwan Semiconductors, make sure you go look at TSM. That's the symbol. I'm not telling you to invest. That's not my job. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you to do some research on this company because TSM, I technically have exposure to it through the ETF SMH, the semiconductor ETF, but TSM is the supplier. Like TSM is the dog. Everybody that get chips get it from TSM. So you got AMD, you got Apple, you got Nvidia, you got Qualcomm. TSM provided all of these companies with the chips. TSM is the big dog, and they reported their earnings. And their earnings was key. Their guidance was huge because, again, TSM is the big dog. Like, they the ones who's providing all these companies with this key chip, the semiconductor. So TSM is like, all right, I was really excited to see, man, like I really hope their guidance is raised. I hope that their revenue was really beating expectations because TSM, in my opinion, was like one of the vocal points. Like if TSM do well, oh man, we're going to be in for a nice run in the market, a nice run. But let me just give you a little data on TSM. So their earnings per share came out to $1.08 per share. That beat expectations of $1.04. And they were up, that was up 17% year over year. And their revenue came in at $14.88 billion. $14.8 billion, man, in a freaking quarter. And then they raised their guidance to $15.4 billion for the next 3 months. So they're saying that they expect their revenue to be in between $15.4 billion and $15.8 billion. Or sorry, $15.7 billion for the next few months. Y'all, like, this company is bringing in that much in a quarter. Now, that's not even the point I wanted to get to. But again, they beat expectations of what Wall Street thought they were going to hit. And they saw a strong demand in terms of the chip industry with the 5 nanometer chip and the 7 nanometer chip. The 5 nanometer chip accounted for 18% of the wafer revenue. And then the 7 nanometer chip accounted for 34% of the wafer revenue. But they were saying, like, look, we're raising our guidance because we see the trend of demand, and it keeps rising. It keeps rising, especially over this next quarter. I don't think demand is gonna slow down, is what they saying. So demand gonna keep rising. Oh yeah, oh yeah. TSM, bring in the bread, because I'm in SMH, so I'm rooting for TSM. I'm rooting for all the chip stocks, Nvidia, AMD. Of course, I love Apple, which is technically not a chip stock, but they do make their own chips. So that's not the point though. But again, TSM reported strong earnings. They raised their guidance, and that really, 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 man, I'm telling you, I had a great day when I read their earnings. I'm like, oh no, it's finna get dangerous. It's finna get dangerous. So shout out to TSM. I see you doing your thing. The supplier of everybody. TSM is the plug when it comes to semiconductors. Shout out TSM, baby. Last but not least, we got to go over Tesla. Tesla. I'm telling you, Tesla. Let's just get to the data real quick, because I got a lot of things I want to say about Tesla. Their earnings per share came out to 1.86 per share. Their expectations was 1.37. They blew that out the water. Not even close. Not even close. They do this quarter over quarter. They keep blowing out expectations. It's not even coming close to estimates. Like, dude, when are y'all gonna start believing in Tesla? Because they doing the thing, and they keep providing the evidence. Like, yo, we're doing our thing. What more can we say? Like, we're doing our thing. We don't even need to talk. We're just gonna let the numbers speak for themselves. Their revenue came out to 13.7 billion, and that was up 57% over the year. And their estimates for that was 13.1 billion. So they blew it out the water. Up 57% over the year. Come on now. In the quarter, we still got one more quarter to go. Like, what more can Tesla do, man? What more can Tesla do? Again, shout out to Tesla. Shout out to XLY. I see you. 52-week high after 52-week high, XLY. I love it. And then they, of course, they keep reiterating that they see a 50% projected annual growth in terms of vehicle deliveries and production. So they continue to emphasize that. I also want to note that Tesla, again, is more than just a car company. Every time their earnings come out, people always pay attention to car production, car deliveries, revenues from their auto sales, and they forget, like, yo, Tesla is also a solar energy company. Like, they also bring in money from energy storage. Like, are y'all paying attention? Let me go over that data real quick. So the energy generation, storage, and revenues came in at 806 million for quarter three. And a year ago, over the year, like for a year ago, their revenue was 79 million in terms of energy storage. And this year's not done. Like, we got one more quarter. To go. Come on. Like, Tesla is more than a car company. Tesla, I need that stock split. Y'all hit 900 today. Everybody's raising their target price. You got a lot of analysts that raised their target price to like 1,246. They raised it from 900 to that. Even the shorts on Tesla is raising their target price. Like, bro, why are you still shorting Tesla at this point, dude? Come on now. But we're not going to talk about that. But a key thing that I saw that Tesla is doing, they're offering insurance. So this is kind of like their services revenues. They're offering insurance to drivers based off of your driving report. So now they're grabbing data from drivers on how safe you drive. And the safer you drive, the higher your score. And the higher your score, if you want this Tesla insurance, the lower your premium will be. So let's say if you're a more kind of dangerous driver, they're going to charge you a higher premium for the insurance. But you're more of a safe driver, then your premium is going to be lower. And they kind of judge you off of the safe driving, basically off of like how hard you've been braking. What else was in there? Like, so you got braking, you got turning, tailgating, stuff like that, just to judge you off how safe you driving. So if you're becoming more of a safe driver in these Tesla Model Ys, X's, whatever kind of Tesla you drive, then if you want this insurance, you're gonna pay a lower premium. But if you kind of tailgating people driving like you in California or driving like you in Texas, then be prepared for that high premium. So y'all better start riding people's ass, man, and stay in your damn lane. But that's huge. That's huge. Like, that opens up a whole nother source of revenue for Tesla. Like, I don't think people know how big that is. That opens up a whole nother source of revenue. Like, so you had those three companies report their earnings, give their guidance. I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm speechless at this point. S&P 500, I'm ready. NASDAQ, come on, I'm ready. I don't even mess with the Dow like that, but NASDAQ and S&P, like, take me to the moon. Take my portfolio to the moon, baby. We already talked about cryptocurrency. We solely talking about the stock market. And this is why I think the stock market is going to continue to go in the uptrend for the remainder of the year. Again, we already beat everything that they was worried about. Inflation. Companies are dealing with that. Tesla. They're dealing with these deliveries and productions, even in a global shortage of semiconductors. Tesla is still blowing out their numbers, blowing out their expectations. What shortage? What shortage? I ain't never heard of no shortage. Come on now. Come on now. We do it big. Buying liabilities, we gotta change the way we think. I'm out, baby.
Walk up in the store and spend 10 on the mink. I just spent a couple thousand up on Apple, let that sink. What they making in a year, we gon' make it in a week. Buying liabilities, we gotta change the way we think. Think it's cool to walk up in the store and spend 10 on the mink. I just spent a couple thousand up on Apple, let that sink. What they making in a year.